Just as we were pulling away, they said, stop, stop, you have 2 clandestines under your bike, on your bike rack under the bike. And then about a month ago we received a fine via email to say that we have a 3,000, and then if we're not successful with that, then you have to appeal. The appeal process is quite complicated, and if we're not successful in our appeal, then we also have to pay the costs of the border force.
Oh, brilliant. So you appeal, you lose it, and then also you pay their costs as well?
Yes.
Which just seems like bully type tactics of trying to...
If you don't like the changes that we've made, I say the door is open and you can...
We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers, and we couldn't have done it without you. Thank you for your incredible support. To celebrate, we're giving away £1,000 to 10 lucky winners, £100 each. Here's how to enter. Subscribe to our channel. Like this post. Drop your postcode in the comments. Once we hit 10,000 subscribers, we'll randomly select the winners. Don't miss your chance to be part of the £1,000 giveaway. Start now, and it could be you. The numbers are shocking. In 2024 alone, over 36,000 migrants crossed the English Channel in small boats, marking a staggering 25% rise from the previous year. It's not just a statistic, it's a clear sign of a growing crisis. Every single day, people take these dangerous trips, risking their lives to reach the UK.
Crisis on Britain's southern border. More than 4,000 illegal migrants have crossed the Channel into England so far this year. But what happens when they ditch the small boats and instead sneak into the UK using the vehicles of unsuspecting holidaymakers? One family from Kent discovered the worst when their car was stopped.
Here's the kicker: smugglers are cashing in big time. It's reported that they're charging between £3,000 to £6,000 per person to make the crossing. That's a lot of money, and these smugglers are profiting off human desperation, with each successful crossing adding to their growing fortune. What's worse is that this isn't a trend that's slowing down. In fact, it's getting worse. With the surge in numbers, the UK has seen record-breaking daily arrivals, which raises a lot of questions. How are they managing to get through? Who's overseeing this? Why are we letting this happen? While thousands are still flooding in, the figures paint a picture of something out of control. Yet, we hear promises that things will change. But if the numbers keep rising, where's the action?
So once at Calais Port, we got called into immigration for our van to be checked. Our van's quite big, so we did expect that. But they came round to the side door and checked in the van, under the van, everywhere, and all around the van, and then proceeded to send us off and say that we could go. Just as we were pulling away, they said, stop, stop, you have 2 clandestines under your bike, on your bike rack under the bike.
As we dig deeper into this issue, it's clear that what we're seeing isn't just about the people crossing, it's about what's being done to stop it. Stay tuned, the next part gets even more eye-opening. A family from Essex went on holiday to France, enjoying their break as any family would. But on their return, things took an unexpected turn. While going through customs, the couple discovered a 16-year-old Sudanese migrant hidden in their motorhome's bicycle rack. They had no idea the young man was there. The family immediately reported the situation to authorities, thinking they had done the right thing. However, instead of receiving a thank you for their honesty, the couple was hit with a £1,500 fine. The fine was for not checking their van thoroughly for hidden migrants, a requirement under UK law. To say this was outrageous would be an understatement. How could a normal family on holiday be penalised for something they had no control over?
What happened to the 2 lads, the clandestines?
So they just get taken outside the port and let go to try this another day.
So they're not even detained, they're not arrested, they're just let back into...
No.
They get processed and then probably let back out the other side of France.
They do just get let out.
The public response was swift and furious. People couldn't believe that a family trying to do the right thing was being punished, while those responsible for hiding migrants seemed to get away scot-free. After a public outcry and an appeal, the fine was finally annulled. But the question remains, how is it fair that innocent people get fined while those breaking the law seem to face little consequence? The whole situation just doesn't add up. Kier Starmer made big promises when he took charge. He vowed to lower the number of migrants crossing the Channel and regain control over the UK's borders. In fact, he harshly criticised the Tory government for its handling of the situation, pledging that a Labour government would take stronger action to tackle illegal immigration. But as we look at the numbers now, things haven't changed as expected.
We're sent on our way with them saying, we understand you didn't know they were under there. You're not going to get a fine for this. It's fine. We can see they were on the back of they went inside your vehicle.
So they said at the time you won't get fined for it.
And then about a month ago, we received a fine via email to say that we have a £3,000 fine.
£3,000, 1,500 quid a head, I guess.
Yeah.
If you're going to work it out like that. Do you think that's fair?
No.
No, not at all. It's disgusting.
It's not fair.
Under Starmer's leadership, the numbers are still rising. In early 2025 alone, more than 4,000 migrants crossed the channel in small boats, continuing a trend of record-breaking arrivals. It's hard not to notice the gap between Starmer's promises and the reality on the ground. While there have been some moves, like targeting smuggling gangs, the crossings continue unabated. Smuggling networks are still raking in huge profits, and the UK's borders remain overwhelmed. People are starting to ask, if Starmer can't fix this now, what will it take? The public is calling for more decisive action, and it's clear that mere words won't solve the issue. Starmer's pledges are starting to look less like solutions and more like empty promises. Coast Guard boats play a crucial role in ensuring the safety of people crossing the channel, especially when small boats run into trouble. Their job is to prevent loss of life, which is vital. But there's a deeper issue at hand. These boats, while acting in good faith to save lives, are also assisting migrants who are entering the UK illegally. So why is it that despite being part of this process, the Coast Guard doesn't face any fines or penalties?
We've objected the fine. So the first part of the process is to object the fine, which we have done. And then if we're not successful with that, then you have to appeal. The appeal process is quite complicated. And if we're not successful in our appeal, then we also have to pay the costs of the border force.
Oh, brilliant. So you appeal, you lose it, and then also you pay their costs as well?
Yes.
Which just seems like bully type tactics of trying to make an easy buck, I think.
Wow. And what happens if you don't pay eventually?
It says on the paperwork that our vehicle would...
It raises some serious questions about the consistency of government policy. On one hand, ordinary citizens face heavy fines if they unknowingly transport migrants or fail to properly check their vehicles. But on the other hand, the very vessels that are helping these migrants make their way to the UK face no consequences. Why are the rules different? Why is there no accountability for the Coast Guard's role in this? It's a strange inconsistency that leaves many people questioning whether the UK's policies are truly geared toward controlling illegal immigration. While the Coast Guard's efforts are focused on saving lives, it's hard to ignore the wider implications of their involvement in facilitating illegal crossings without facing any fines or repercussions. There's a growing sense of frustration among UK citizens. Many feel like the government is turning a blind eye to illegal activities, allowing them to happen without facing serious consequences. Meanwhile, ordinary law-abiding people are being penalised for circumstances beyond their control. It's as if the rules are changing for the worse.
But actually, through talking about this to other people, we know this happens a lot, and we're the victims, and we're not being protected when we're going on a family holiday.
It's almost like you've been burgled and the perpetrators have been allowed to run off back into the community, and then you've been fined for the burglary.
Yes, it is like that.
It feels like a massive scam that we've been scammed.
Lastly, what does your young lad think of it all? Has he told his mates? Is it a bit of fun to him? Is he aware of what happened?
At first, actually, when we got back, he was worried. He was like, "Oh, I'm really worried." As in, I'm worried about them two. That the two men are going to come here, and we're like, "No, you'll be fine, Arlo. Like, they won't come here. They won't get on our van again." And he was really worried.
How old is he?
He's 7, but he has got over it now. But yeah, it did play on his mind for a little bit.
Take the case of the Essex couple who were fined £3,000 after unknowingly transporting migrants in their van. They had no idea that the migrants had hidden themselves in the vehicle's bike rack, yet they were still punished. It's a perfect example of how the government seems to be penalising innocent people while those responsible for illegal crossings often escape without consequence. This situation has left many asking, how is it fair that a family gets fined for something they didn't do while the criminals behind these illegal crossings continue to make massive profits and face little to no repercussions? People are starting to feel like crime is being decriminalised, and it's the citizens who are left to foot the bill for someone else's wrongdoing. The public outcry is growing, and it's clear that many believe it's time for a serious rethink of how the system handles these situations. There's a growing sense of frustration with the government's reluctance to properly address illegal migrant activities. Despite the significant number of people crossing the channel illegally, there seems to be a hesitation to prosecute those involved in these actions. Smugglers continue to operate, and the border enforcement systems seem overwhelmed. The government's failure to take stronger action raises serious questions about its commitment to maintaining border security and ensuring that the law is upheld.
Before I get the thoughts of my panel, a Home Office spokesperson told GB News, "We're fully committed to stopping people from illegally entering the country and cracking down on people smugglers, which is why the clandestine entrant civil penalty scheme is there to ensure drivers take every reasonable step to deter irregular migration. We understand that recipients of penalties may disagree with the circumstances of the fine. The option to appeal and trigger a review is made clear in supporting
It's starting to erode public trust. People are becoming increasingly skeptical about the government's ability to manage immigration effectively. If the authorities can't take action against those behind illegal crossings, it suggests a weakness in the system. The public begins to wonder, if those breaking the law aren't being held accountable, what message does that send? The lack of enforcement can also lead to a breakdown in faith in law enforcement itself. If criminals can evade consequences, people start to lose confidence in the rule of law. It's more than just an immigration issue, it's about whether the government can be trusted to protect its citizens and uphold justice in the face of growing challenges.
Horrified me about that interview, Ben, is this seems to be happening quite a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's thousands and thousands of pounds in fines.
It's a lot of money for that family. They're a
A
hard-working young
lot of
family.
money for a decent family. Then they go through an appeals process. All of that costs money. The courts are already overburdened. And if there are more of them, and we are told there are more, how much is that costing us just to get the fines?
If individuals face fines of £1,500 for each migrant they unknowingly transport, the question must be asked, what about border force personnel who are actively assisting migrants as part of their duties? These agents are tasked with saving lives, often pulling people from perilous situations in the Channel. Yet if the rules are applied strictly, could they too be liable for financial penalties? This raises serious operational dilemmas. On one hand, border force agents are following orders and performing life-saving work. On the other hand, they're potentially caught in a situation where their efforts to assist could be seen as enabling illegal crossings. If the government is imposing hefty fines on citizens, why wouldn't the same standard apply to the officials involved in these operations? This contradiction puts border force personnel in a tough spot. They must navigate between their professional duty to help those in distress and the looming risk of facing financial penalties. It's a complex issue that highlights the inconsistencies within the system. Agents working to save lives could potentially find themselves punished for simply doing their jobs. This raises serious concerns about how the government balances compassion, enforcement, and accountability in dealing with illegal crossings.